Joan Gratz. Joan? Oh, there you are, Joan.
I think I'll just stand.
Okay.
I don't plan to be
Are you
here
mic'd
that
up?
long.
You mic'd? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Stand in the light, though.
Oh, okay. Actually, why don't we turn off the lights and run the first clip? Then everyone can sneak out in the dark.
Long day.
That basically is the extent of my connection with high tech. That was done for Windows, and initially, I think when you booted up your computer, that was supposed to come up, but somehow there wasn't enough memory, so it's buried someplace in Windows. Basically, my tools are principally this finger and a 35 millimeter Mitchell camera, movie camera left over from the Second World War, and a bunch of plasticine clay, which I've thinned with mineral oil, so it's basically moving more like paint, and an easel. It's a technique I've been doing, I think I started it in about '68. The film I'm going to show is one called Mona Lisa Descending a Staircase, and it was a film I originally started in 1981, and the idea, I got a small grant to do it, and it was going to be the history of 20th century painting, and I realized that that was a fairly broad area. So I managed to kind of narrow that to the human face in 20th century Western painting, and then had to narrow it even further to basically just people I liked, which is the nice thing that you can do as a filmmaker, and especially as an animator. So I think that's about all you need.
Which one an Academy Award?
Oh, which one an Academy Award? The nice thing about that was you only had to speak for 45 seconds, unlike this. So why don't we go ahead and roll that film.
He was really certain then that he was a great one. And he certainly was a great one. Certainly, everyone could be certain of this thing, that this one is a great one. This one was one very many were knowing from, and very many were glad to meet him. Very many sometimes listened to him. Some listened to him very often.
Uno, due, tre.
Art brut.
It doesn't lose its flavor in cooking. May not be Mr. Right, but he is certainly Mr. Smooth.
I looked at all the beauty of heaven.
Regular price art.
That piece took me about, 7 years to procrastinate on it, and then another 3 years to animate it. And of course, it was pre-morph programs, so I'm sure you guys could whip it out like that on the computer. But basically, my idea, too, was by the transformations between the paintings to kind of show some of the style and the emotional content of the painter, and then by the soundtrack, a little bit of the social context. The next piece, I know we're short of time, so I'll be fast. The next piece is just part of a film I've been working on, and it was in part response to doing a lot of commercial work where you have clients with concerns that aren't necessarily your concerns. And so I wanted to do something that was just totally kind of a stream of consciousness, or almost like an improvisation. So I'd go into my studio and I'd animate for what would turn out to be 2 seconds of film, so about 8 or 10 hours a day. And without planning in any way where I was going, but just kind of to see what would come out of that. So I did recognize that when you work that way, there's no real way to end it. It just goes on and on because you don't want to then impose a structure on it. So anyway, this is the first time any audience has seen it, and maybe the last. But you can run it.
Bukankah maksud hati ini sejarah? Tak menulis kabar berita. Apakah salah diri ini? Mana kata-kata manis cinta dan perasaanmu yang telah kau curahkan padaku?
I'll just say one more thing. So I guess the only thing I have left to say is that the thing that interests me is the work that's the result of an individual rather than committees or groups. So regardless of the limitations, I guess what I'm most interested in is, you know, just sort of seeing one person's vision. Thanks.